Okay, Mr. Solicitor General, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honors.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Solicitor General. Mr. Solicitor General, can you please refer to the provision in the law, UHCA law, regarding which reads, no portion of the reserve fund or income thereof shall accrue to the general fund of the national government or any of its agencies or instrumentalities, including government-owned or controlled corporation. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Is this the first time last year? Was it the first time that GOCCs or any government agency for that matter were required to review and reduce their respective reserve funds for the purpose of producing funds to be transferred to the National Treasury?
As far as I know, this is the first time, Your Honor.
All right. So, would you agree that in so doing, review and reduce their respective reserve funds? Okay. The PhilHealth specifically reopened the closed books. Its closed books in 2021, 2022, and 2023.
Your Honor, I am not really very sure about the technical meaning of reopening one's books. But as far as I know, based on that provision of the special provision 1D, Chapter 43, on the unprogrammed appropriations, what is simply required is for the GOCCs to review and reduce to a reasonable level their reserve funds on the basis of their historical disbursements over the past few years, 3 years to be more specific.
Yes, Mr.
So it's a matter of
Solicitor General.
simply looking at the data pertaining to their annual disbursements for 2021, 2022, and 2023.
All right. And because of this review, the PhilHealth was able to reduce its reserve funds for these 3 years. And it is those funds that the PhilHealth transferred to the Bureau of Treasury.
No, Your Honor. They computed the reasonable amount of reserves based on actual disbursements for the past 3 years. And the remainder is the one that was used as basis for determining the amount to be remitted back to the National Treasury.
So do you mean to say, Mr. Solicitor General, that for 2021, there was an excess reserve funds?
Excess of reserve funds?
Funds, yes.
I would say that, excess of reserve funds in relation to what, Your Honor?
Reserve funds are specifically earmarked to answer or cover payments
Yes,
of
Your
the
Honor.
claims of beneficiaries. And if there is an excess, to fund programs that will ultimately reduce the financial responsibilities of the beneficiaries. And third, if there's still excess in the excess, to invest the same. So, Mr. Solicitor General, in 2021, was there excess reserve funds?
Your Honor, if we are going by the definition of reserve fund under Section 11 of the Universal Health Care Act, that reserve fund is determined by the actuarial computation.
Yes, Mr. Solicitor General, I have no quarrel with that. My point is, was there excess funds in 2021 coming from the reserve funds of PhilHealth.
Yes, the answer to that question is yes,
and
Your Honor.
Section 11 tells PhilHealth what to do with the excess funds.
Exactly, Your Honor.
Doesn't it? Yes?
No, Your Honor, there is no violation. Because that responsibility on the part of PhilHealth to make use of any excess over the reserve fund for the twin purposes of increasing benefit packages and reducing the contributions from the members is something that can be implemented within the period of 10 years. It's not something that has to be implemented immediately. So in other words, even if we have that special provision 1D, it does not mean that the obligations of PhilHealth to spend the excess over its reserve fund has been abandoned, because that is something that can be complied with at some future time. It's
At some future time.
It's a 10-year period of implementation, Your
and
Honor.
this is the sixth year.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you have not started with the programs yet. Because according to you, the excess funds may be devoted for other purposes. Because anyway, the timeline is 10 years.
No, Your Honor, there is no inconsistency, because as we speak, PhilHealth has been increasing its benefit packages even before Special Provision 1D came into effect. And more so after that provision, special provision, was enacted as part of the unprogrammed appropriations.
Yes, Mr.
We have seen a
Solicitor
slew of benefit increases over the past several months, Your Honor.
Several months, not only. Several months only.
But
when PhilHealth is required to do it from the time it has been created under UHCA.
That is very true, Your Honor,
Yes.
but this is a matter which is reserved to the Board of Directors of PhilHealth.
Yes.
This is a management
A
thing.
management and a business judgment. But then, the judgment of PhilHealth to disburse its funds is limited by Section 11. That reserve funds, as it is named, is reserved and cannot be subject to the discretion of PhilHealth to be used for another purpose.
We are referring, Your Honor, to the excess over the reserve fund.
Yes, but the excess is also subject to the provision of Section 11. And Section 11 mentions the purposes for which this excess should have been used.
Yes, Your Honor. Let me discuss the second purpose, which is to reduce the contributions of the members. In our opinion, Your Honor, that is something that PhilHealth itself cannot do at the moment. There is no mechanism provided under the Universal Healthcare Act that would authorize the reduction at this time of the contributions from the members. What we see in the Universal Healthcare is a schedule of the premium rates from 2019 down to 2025. But after 2025, there's nothing there. And there is neither any provision for a reduction of the contributions rates, the premium rates. So it is our opinion, Your Honor, that legislative action is necessary to bring down the contribution premium rates.
Right? That is your opinion, Mr. Solicitor General.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. But this court's, my reading is this. This is self-executing. And it is PhilHealth that must execute it because the law is in place already. All right. All right. When funding unprogrammed appropriations, how does Congress determine where to get the funds and which appropriations to realign?
Your Honor, under Special Provision 1D, there are various sources of funds, such as excess of revenue collections over the targets, or new revenues, whether these are tax or non-tax. There are foreign loans approved, which might also go into the pool. And finally, this new additional source.
And excess reserve funds.
Excess...
reserve funds.
No, it's called
as a result,
fund balance.
Yes,
Your Honor.
As a result of the review and reduction scheme.
To reasonable levels
Yeah.
of their...
To reasonable level.
Of their reserve funds.
Is discretionary. It has no fixed standard. All right.
There are guidelines, Your Honor, set by the Department
Yes.
of Finance for determining the computation of what should be a reasonable level.
Yes. According to the DOF, the funds to be remitted to the National Treasury will finance urgent national projects. In Annex A of your compliance, dated November 8, 2024, pages 1 to 4, the OSG enumerated some of these projects, including routine maintenance of national roads, the Panay-Guimaras-Negros Island Bridges, or the PGN Bridges project, and payment of right-of-way. These are all construction projects, Mr. Solicitor General, correct?
Not all of them, Your Honor.
All
Some
right.
of them pertain to health projects.
No, I'm talking about the routine maintenance of national roads, the PGN Bridges project, and payment of right-of-way. Correct?
In a sense, they are
Yes,
routinary, ordinary expenses
They
of
are they
expenditures.
pertain to construction projects of the government. Correct?
Infrastructure.
Yes. You can call it that, infrastructure projects. All right. With respect to the PGN Bridges project, per DBM's budget of expenditures and source of financing FY 2024 report, the PGN Bridges project appears to be fully funded by the Export-Import Bank of Korea in the amount of 174.49 billion plus. Is there an urgency to transfer the PhilHealth funds when the project is already fully funded?
Your Honor, this is a matter really of delving into the wisdom of the legislature in allocating funds.
Yes.
So while
funding a project that is already fully funded under the category of unprogrammed funds.
I didn't quite get the
Programs.
question,
Yes.
Your Honor. Pardon me.
Yes. Export-Import Bank of Korea has loaned the Philippines 174.49 billion plus. Is there an urgency to transfer the PhilHealth funds when the project is already fully funded?
Your Honor, I think one consideration by the Congress in doing so is a determination of when a project is already implementable. So if a project that has already been identified and sufficiently funded is considered to be non-implementable for the given fiscal year, then I think it is the decision of the Congress in the exercise of its policy or wisdom, so to speak, to move it to the unprogrammed appropriations in the meantime.
Yes, all right. So, has the government moved this amount to the unprogrammed funds of the government?
There are so...
This
sorry, Your Honor.
Export-Import Bank of Korea loan, has the government moved it to unprogrammed funds?
We will have to check on
Yes,
that.
please check on that.
Yes, whether that has been actually transferred only or removed altogether.
Yes.
Because there were certain removals made by the Congress in the proposed infrastructure or other projects
How
of the
can
government.
the government have removed this when it is a loan specifically for that purpose?
It is something that can be deferred, Your Honor, even
Yes,
if it's
what
funded.
is the reason for deferring it?
Your Honor, I cannot speculate on the
Correct.
reasons of the
I go
congressman.
now, yes, to my next question. Has the government spent even a single centavo from that loan, considering that the project has not even started?
Well, there is nothing to spend for if the project has not even started, Your
So
Honor.
where is the money?
The money went presumably to the National Treasury for the purpose of using it for projects and programs under the unprogrammed
So we have
appropriations.
unused funds for the project, and yet we still got money from PhilHealth to supplement this fund that has been unused for years.
Not automatically, Your Honor, because even if the funds, even if the sources of funds under special provision, number one, of the unprogrammed appropriations is already there and is ready to be used for the projects under the unprogrammed appropriations, it is still a question of whether the implementing agency is ready to implement that project. So if the implementing agency does not think that it can implement such a project within the given year, then it will not ask for any allocation under the
Yes.
unprogrammed appropriations.
Yes, but aside from the foreign funding from Korea for this project, in 2022, there was additional funding from the GAA for this project in the amount of 50 million in 2022. In 2023, another 57 million. This is over and above the Korea Export-Import Bank of Korea loan. Where did this money go when the project has not even started?
We will check on that, Your Honor, because that is a very specific project which we have not really examined.
Yes,
we're
please
looking
do
at
that.
the totality of all the projects that were defunded or where the allocations have been reduced, and or some projects that had actually been removed from the program appropriations under the NEP, and which may have found themselves in the unprogrammed appropriations.
Yes, Mr. Solicitor General. And based on the special allotment release order, the use of funds for the PGN Bridge project is released on a quarterly basis, showing that the payment of funds is done in phases. More, based on the press release of the local government of Iloilo on the project timeline, the construction period for Section A, which is the 13-kilometer Panay-Guimaras project, is from a third quarter of 2025 up to the fourth quarter of 2028. Given these premises, what is the urgency of remitting the subject funds if the construction of the PG and Bridges project has already been funded and has yet to start in 2025?
Your Honor, the urgency is on the use of these available funds for all the projects listed under the unprogrammed appropriations. There are so many of them. I think 57 different
Yes,
purposes.
and it's one of them. And it's one of them. And it shows that it has had multiple fundings. All right. On maintenance of national roads, which national roads are we referring to?
Your Honor, we can refer to the SARO released by the Department of Budget and Management to determine which particular projects had already availed themselves of funding from the provisions of special
So there are no
provision.
specific national roads that are covered by the unprogrammed funds.
Your Honor, what is stated under the unprogrammed appropriations are purposes. Purposes, not specific particular project.
Correct.
Now, it depends on the implementing agency to determine which specific road project it wants to be implemented using the funds available from Special Provision 1B.
Yes, thank you for that, Mr. Solicitor General. In the 2024 GAA, there is already an appropriation for the maintenance of national roads under its special road fund of 15 million, 1.6 billion under maintenance, repair, and rehabilitation of infrastructure facilities and other related activities, routing maintenance of national roads, and 463 million under maintenance, repair, and rehabilitation of infrastructure facilities and other related activities, routing maintenance of national bridges, all under the DPWH budget. More, per DPWH Department Order Number 32 Series of 2020, the road fund shall be remitted to the National Treasury and earmarked for the construction, upgrading, repair, and rehabilitation of roads, bridges, and road drainage. Perhaps each one of us pays the road tax each time we renew our licenses or we register our cars. Considering all these fundings, why is there a need to get additional funds from PhilHealth for the same road maintenance under the category of unprogrammed appropriations?
Your Honor, as I have explained earlier, during the deliberations of the budget, on the budget by the Congress, they determine whether some or a few or several of the projects identified by the proponent agency are something that can be implemented within the given fiscal year. So I cannot speculate, but I can only think of the reason that they may remove some of these specific projects identified in their belief that they cannot be implemented anyway or can wait until some future time, and therefore they remove them from the programmed appropriations.
Programmed appropriations, what I understand is this. There are already programmed appropriations, but in addition, unprogrammed funds were also sourced out from GOCCs. PhilHealth is one of them. So here's maintenance for roads, national roads, that carry both programmed funds and unprogrammed funds. All right. Now, let's go to the payment of right-of-way. Of course, as Solicitor General, you wouldn't know how many properties the government is projecting to pay for, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
But under the 2024 GAA, DPWH was granted 2.5 billion for payment of right of way. So why is there a need to tap PhilHealth funds for payment of right of way?
Your Honor, let me just clarify that we are not referring solely to PhilHealth funds. I mean, the remainder of...
Correct.
We are referring to a pool
Yes,
of funds.
I'm aware of that, Mr. Solicitor General. But it is a fact that money was taken, billions, in fact 89 billion, although a little was restrained by the government, by the Supreme Court. So that's the fact that billions of pesos were taken from the reserve funds of PhilHealth. What? For the construction of a bridge that has not even started and that has been funded many times over,
Your
and a right of way that is already funded by billions, and then maintenance of the roads that is already funded by billions under the GAA.
Your Honor, under the purposes listed under unprogrammed appropriations, the biggest chunk goes to social projects, including health projects. And as a matter of fact, as of December of 2024, the total amount of 46 billion pesos, thereabouts, more or less, had been devoted under the unprogrammed appropriations for social, more particularly health projects, such as the regional hospitals of the Department of Health, and most importantly, Your Honor, for the payment of the long overdue health emergency allowances of medical workers who were supposed to be paid during the pandemic, but whose payment had been substantially delayed. So the very first payment made out of the unprogrammed appropriations went to
Yes.
the payment of the health emergency allowances of nurses and other medical workers.
But there is an overlap between this general purpose for unprogrammed funds on one hand and the special purpose for which PhilHealth funds have been constituted. Right. Now, the other projects funded from the GOCCs, including PhilHealth, include management and supervision of comprehensive peace process, payment of personnel benefits, priority social programs for health, social welfare and development, higher education, and technical and vocational education, revised AFP modernization program, pension and gratuity fund, financial subsidy for purchase of photovoltaic mainstreaming for rural electrification. Now, may I ask, which comprehensive peace process does this refer to?
I'm not sure exactly which is being referred to, but I suppose that refers to the long and ongoing peace process that has started many administrations ago and which has not been completed. So I suppose this includes the peace process involving our brothers in southern Mindanao.
Yes, but like the other programs, under the unprogrammed appropriations, the 2024 GAA already has an item under the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity for this purpose, which is 459 million plus. We're flashing it on the screen. What is the need for additional 688 million plus budget under the unprogrammed appropriations? Is the peace process part of the mandate of PhilHealth?
Again, Your Honor, I cannot speculate why Congress put such a project under the unprogrammed appropriations.
Precisely, we are here, okay,
Yes, Your Honor, but
to evaluate whether the assignment of this item, the inclusion, is proper. Is it valid? Is it constitutional?
Your Honor, it's just a list. The matter of actual availment will have to be determined by the implementing
Yes,
agency.
but because of that list, 89 billion funds of the PhilHealth, minus the last remittance, was transferred to the National Treasury.
Your Honor, again, this is a matter which should be addressed to the wisdom and the policy of the legislature. So I believe, will not be in a position to say that a certain appropriation is right
Yes.
or wrong or proper or improper.
Yes.
We have to rely on the wisdom of the
which
people
is
who represent us.
a political question.
In that
Except
sense,
only
yes.
if it is tainted with grave abuse of discretion.
Exactly, Your Honor.
All right. What about the personnel benefits? The amounts needed to implement the salary adjustments of the national government agencies shall be charged from the respective agencies' budgets per National Budget Circular number 591 of the DBM. Why is this item charged against PhilHealth and categorized as unprogrammed?
There is an existing appropriation for that under the program appropriations, Your
Yes.
Honor. But in addition, or probably in substitution of a part of the amount already allocated in the program, the appropriations, Congress deemed it proper to include as a standby this particular item if funds would be available
All right.
to support it.
Standby. But the reserve funds is not just standby. All right. Now, meanwhile, for priority social programs for health, the DOH budget under the 2024 GAA already includes 28 billion plus for the implementation of health facilities enhancement program and 58 billion plus for medical assistance for indigent and financially incapacitated patients. How are these different from the priority social programs for health under the unprogrammed appropriations?
Your Honor, as I have explained earlier, during the process of budget deliberations, Congress might have removed or reduced the allocation for certain health projects, DOH projects, for in consideration probably of the reason that these are not implementation ready. So
Yes.
let's just put it on standby under the unprogrammed appropriations. And when there are funds to support them, then we will
Yes,
implement
funds standby means it may or may not be used.
this. Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. But the reserve funds will always be used because people get sick and they need funds for their medicines, hospital expenses. And the hospitals and doctors also have to receive the reimbursement for their expenses. Otherwise, the quality of service to our Filipino people will suffer.
Your Honor, that expense is taken care of by the accumulated income of the PhilHealth, its corporate operating budget, and in addition, its reserve funds. So
Yes.
all of these expenditures, Your Honor, have already been considered and taken into account before PhilHealth determined what was its fund
Yes.
balance.
Yes, Mr. Solicitor General. But the DOF circular specifically mentions reserve funds.
Fund balance, Your Honor, not reserve fund.
And that is what you use later. But what is in the circular itself?
Fund balance,
Okay.
not reserve fund.
Yes, fund balance, reserve funds. We can call it another name.
Yeah, but it is our
Yes.
position that they are different concepts, Your Honor.
Fund balance from where? From the accumulated benefits.
No, fund balance we're speaking in terms of the general application of DOF Circular 003-2024. That circular does not refer only to PhilHealth,
Yes.
but to all GOCCs.
Correct. But we're talking here how it affected PhilHealth.
In the case of PhilHealth, Your Honor, there was this directive by the Congress in the exercise of its legislative powers and its power to appropriate to review and reduce PhilHealth's reserve fund on the basis of its historical
Correct.
expenses.
So we're speaking
And
of
the
reserve
remainder-
funds. We're speaking of reserve funds.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
But it's the remainder.
The remainder
ones-
of the reserve funds. Then we go back to section 11. All right. Anyway, thank you for that. My last question is this. For the AFP modernization program, based on research, 25 billion was allotted for this under the 2020 GAA, 27 billion under the 2021 GAA, 29 billion and 50 million under the 2022 GAA, but no similar item under the 2023 and 2024 GAAs. Yet, Republic Act number 10349 extended the AFP modernization program for another 15 years, that is until 2027. In short, this expense is predictable. So why was it placed under the unprogrammed appropriations in 2023 and 2024 GAA?
Again, Your Honor, we cannot speculate
Yes.
on the reasons,
The wisdom.
on the wisdom of Congress in postponing or deferring certain
And
expenditures.
reclassifying these funds, though predictable, from programmed to unprogrammed. All right. Mr. Solicitor General, thank you. You have all my respect.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You may go back to your seat. Thank
Thank you.
you. So for petitioners who would like to respond to the questions of the court. Yes, just two questions, Chief. Thank you. All right.
If I may, Your Honors.
Yes,
We just
Is it
divided.
good evening already?
It is good evening.
It is
already,
good
Your
and
Honors.
it is evening.
Yes, yes.
All
But
right.
just to clarify, Your Honor, based on the order of the court, we divided the topics. So procedural goes to Attorney Calleja. The PhilHealth issues, mainly to Pimentel, the petitioners.
All right. So Attorney Calleja
For the
will
procedural.
respond to my questions.
If I may, Your Honor, the ones assigned to us is presidential certification and insertion in the budget by the BICAM. in the
Noted.
program funds.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Counsel. Good evening, rather.
Good evening, Your Honors.
Yes.
Good evening.
It's evening. All right. Did Section 1D, Chapter 14, 43,
43, Your
yes,
Honor.
43 of GAA 2024 amend the provision under Section 11 of the UHCA stating that, I quote, "No portion of the reserve fund or income thereof shall accrue to the general fund of the national government or any of its agencies or instrumentalities, including government-owned or controlled corporations."
Well, anyway, Your Honor, that is for the Pimentel, but I would venture an answer since...
Don't venture. I want the one in charge to
Okay.
respond.
Okay, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, Your Honor.
Counsel, yes,
Your
please
Honor.
respond.
Yes, Your Honor. It is our argument that it actually amends Section 11 of the Universal Healthcare Act. Your Honor, in the Section 11, it says no portion of the reserve fund or income thereof. Whether, while the reserve fund, the respondents have debated on whether the amounts are actual reserve funds or not, because they have been challenging that it is supposed to be accumulated earnings, Your Honor. But I think the language is clear on the income thereof. Based on the financial statements of PhilHealth from 2013, at least that's the one we were able to review, Your Honor, until present, all premium contributions, whether direct or indirect, are actually reflected as income of the corporation. And therefore, Your Honor, whether the discussion on reserve funds is still debatable based on respondents, it is our argument, Your Honor, that Section 1B actually amended Section 11 of the Universal Healthcare because it is inconsistent. And it is also irreconcilable, Your Honor.
All right. Doesn't the Supreme Court, in the exercise of its adjudicatory power, have the authority to order the restoration of the 69 billion fund balance of PhilHealth transferred to the National Treasury through appropriation?
You want? Sige. My apologies, Your Honor. We'll have Attorney Colmenares answer the question, Your Honor.
The question, Your Honor, is can the court order the return of the PhilHealth funds that were siphoned to the unprogrammed funds? We believe, Your Honor, yes. It can be ordered by the court to be returned. In the first place, Your Honor, the last portion of those transferred happened, the last two actually, Your Honors, happened at the time the court already issued the TRO. The last one and the second that was released one day before the TRO.
Oh, so your long and short answer is?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Your excuse.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Justice. Thank you, everyone. Chief Justice, thank you very much.
Okay. For the record, this afternoon, Justice Ami Javier completed an interpellation on the parties. Let the oral argument in these cases continue on March 4, 2025 at 2 p.m. In the meantime, Justice Kagiwa would like to request something from the parties.
Can I ask the Deputy Treasurer to go to the podium, please? Justice Ami earlier talked about the 6 sources of funding for the PhilHealth.
Yes,
I just
Your
want to clarify certain things because I will be asking documents for those. Do I understand it correctly that PCSO and PAGCOR remit the money directly to PhilHealth or to the National Treasury?
To the National Treasury, Your Honor.
For the syntax, is it remitted directly to PhilHealth or to the National Treasury?
The BIR collects these funds which will be remitted to the Treasury in the end, Your Honor.
In the end, correct? So the money flows into the Treasury,
Yes, Your Honor.
correct?
Yes.
And the National Treasury has a ledger of monies coming in. You have the general fund, you have the trust fund, the special fund, correct?
We do, Your Honor.
All right. And when the SolGen, from what I'm hearing, the SolGen and the government corporate council are saying, the money doesn't go to a special fund. It doesn't go to a treasury. It goes into the general fund. Is that correct?
Are we referring to the syntax?
Syntax.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And as it enters the books on the general fund, you book it under the SAG-F, correct?
There is no SAG-F created for the syntaxes, Your Honor.
So it's part of the general fund.
It is part of the general fund, Your
In
Honor.
spite of the language of the law, there is not even a special account for the general fund.
Your Honor, the law, if I, of course, with the your kind indulgence, my reading of the law only specified the allocation. It did not specify the creation of a special fund.
But the law says it's a tax, it's a levy by way of tax for a special purpose. Doesn't that, in your definition, constitute a special fund?
Your Honor, the Treasury only sets up a special account in the general fund if the law or the provisions of the law specifically states that it has to be a special fund or a special account in the general fund.
So, the law itself, it is your position that the law itself has to have words to say that the money has to be in a special fund, I use that in quotes, or in a special account in the general fund.
It is the
That's your position.
It has been the practice of the Treasury, Your Honor.
So when the money goes from the syntaxes to the National Treasury, and that's the general fund, that's subject to the expenditures of everything. Kukuha kayo at kukuha kayo ron, di ba?
It will be commingled with the resources of
Exactly.
the national government. Yes, Your Honor.
Exactly. So it can be used now for purposes other than what was stated by the UHCA law, correct? Because it's fungible.
Your Honor, all of the funds going to the Treasury is technically fungible because we adopt to the
Yes.
best possible the one fund concept.
Correct. But there
we-
is an earmarking. In the same manner that you say some laws direct the earmarking by way of a special fund, an earmarking by way of a special account in the general fund, that is an earmarking to say this money goes only for this purpose.
Your Honor, again, your kind indulgence. I'm not a lawyer, but again, I only highlight the operational practices of the Bureau since I have been with the Bureau for the last 10 years.
Well, I have asked several DBM people myself on my own research, and they all uniformly told me that it should be booked as a SAG-F. So, kanya-kanyang practice ba yan?
Your Honor, the Treasury cannot request anything from the DBM, cannot proceed with the bureaucratic protocols to establish a SAG-F without that specific statement in the law.
But there's a definition of what a SAG-F is, correct?
I believe so, Your Honor.
And that definition doesn't say it should be mentioned in the law. Correct? It is the nature of the fund. That is the definition that governs the National Treasury. The nature of the fund. It doesn't say only if the law says I have to create a SAG-F or a special fund.
Again, Your Honor, once more, I'm not a lawyer, but the provision that the Treasury is looking at is the one contained in the admin code.
I'm talking also about the admin code.
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. There is a specific provision there which basically states that unless otherwise stated in law, then all income shall accrue to the unappropriated surplus.
But there
of the
is also a
general fund.
provision that talks about what are considered to be SAG-F. And that provision makes no reference to any specific law.
Then, Your Honor, again, I'm not in the position
It's okay. I will take this up in more detail when it's my turn. I just wanted to ask, should you have been recording it as a SAG-F, I wanted to see the ledgers. So you have no ledgers to show me.
No, Your Honor. For the syntaxes.
Yes, for the syntaxes. No, because the president of PhilHealth mentioned earlier that they can identify which ones come from PCSO, which ones come from PAGCOR, and which ones come from syntax. So what is his basis if the National Treasury itself doesn't have that in their books?
Your Honor, whenever we release funds to the PhilHealth, it is always with the supporting documents that identify the sources.
So you identify the sources.
Yes,
Why do you do that if it's a general fund?
The sources will be based upon the items in the GAA, Your Honor.
So you function on the basis of the GAA, not on the basis of the PhilHealth Charter or the UHC law or the syntax law.
We only disburse, Your Honor, based on the GAA provisions.
All right, thank you. Can I ask just the government corporate secretary? I'm sorry, counsel. The- Good evening, counsel.
Good evening, Your Honors.
The PhilHealth has an Office of Actuarial Services and Risk Management Sector. Is that correct?
Notarial risk.
Actuarial
Actuarial.
Services and Risk Management Sector.
I think that may be correct, Your Honor.
And it is headed by a woman named Nerissa R. Santiago.
Yes.
Is she here? All right, I will be asking you questions, okay? But in the meantime, for purposes of the oral arguments next week, can I ask for a diagram of the entire office? And who are the people for each office and what do they do? At the same time, to identify each person and his expertise or educational background. Can you give that to me before Tuesday? Can you submit that by Friday? All right? Thank you. That's all, Chief.
Incidentally, may I also request the Solicitor General to submit to the court a listing of all cases of notices of disallowances issued by COA on PhilHealth over the last 5 years, particularly those cases that reached the Supreme Court. Thank you so much. Yeah. Also, the status of these cases, as SolGen Maynard, when you give us the list, give us also the status of these cases.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Maripe, are there other matters?
There are no other matters, Your Honor.
Okay, there being no other matters, this afternoon's session is hereby adjourned to resume on March 4, 2025. Thank you.